So much has been written about Beethoven's Eroica Symphony, about the power of the human spirit in times of conflict and intolerance. I'm just wondering if maybe you can share with everyone why you chose this piece, maybe expand on that theme, what interests you, just about this very, very famous Beethoven symphony.
Yeah, absolutely. I think times of conflict is an important theme there because internally Beethoven felt struggle. He was noticing that he was losing his hearing around that time. There are letters where he writes about his despair that people would describe some distant sound or something like that, and he wouldn't know what they're talking about. And so I think he realized around that time that he really is suffering from his hearing is really going, right? And the other part was a political one. It's the time of Napoleon's conquests, and initially, and so here comes then where we talk about the title, the Eroica Symphony of that symphony. He initially dedicated this symphony actually to Napoleon. The reason for that is that he thought on a political level he was actually conflicted with the aristocracy in Austria, because Austria, like many countries, was ruled by the aristocratic class. And on one hand, these were the people who often paid for Beethoven's works, right? So he was somehow in their service. But politically, he believed that was wrong. He believed it was not correct that people just by birth would be born in a ruling class, and like the behaviors, and the way that the aristocrats often ruled was rubbing Beethoven the wrong way. He was believing in the free human spirit, in the freedom of expression, of course, and all of that. And so initially, when he thought about Napoleon, coming basically against the aristocracy, he was a big fan, and he was such a fan that he sometimes would go to cafes or to bars and talk loudly about that, which was very dangerous in that time. And then the following happened. Napoleon crowned himself emperor.
Right.
And when Beethoven heard about that from his own pupil, apparently he flew into a fit of rage, real rage, and screaming. So now Napoleon is just one of the others, and he will kind of like fail the ideals of kind of like, helping the suppressed and all of that. And so he scratched out, when you see the title page of the autograph of this symphony, you see the old dedication to Napoleon, and he scratched it out very Beethoven-like, very angrily,
scratched
out Napoleon's name and the dedication, and he wrote, "To a grand hero," and then also, basically the idea was that he had this idea of the struggle that leads to triumph. You see that starting in the first movement, where the first chords are these kind of like big chords, like a little bit of a battle, and then come the different themes, and there is always very quickly this change of like the mellow themes going into very kind of like nearly aggressive thematic materials, and then a big triumph at the end of the last movement with a funeral march in between. And so it's a little bit about this hero's journey, in some ways. I would say that from the battle to the struggle, to the final triumph.